Delighted to welcome Davin Anderson to the Vintage Rebellion podcast and for Fantha Tracks. Good day to you, Davin.
Hey, thanks, Rich. It's great to be here. Thanks so much for the invitation.
Now, Davin, the reason why I've asked you to come on this show is because we were both recently at Celebration Europe 4. It still doesn't seem right calling it Celebration Europe 4 because for such a long time it was CE3, but now we've finally had a CE4, so it hasn't quite stuck yet. But I saw your stand at Celebration and I was like, yes, all the stars have aligned. I've been wanting to go to Tunisia for such a long time. I'm delighted to have you on your show. So first of all, can you just give you an introduction about yourself and what Galaxy Tours are?
Absolutely. Thanks, Rich. I appreciate it. First, I was really glad to see that you among so many other fans were excited to see our stand at Celebration. It really was a groundbreaking effort for us. So my name is Davin Anderson. I am originally from Utah in the United States. That's where I was born and raised. I haven't been back to Utah for quite some time. I've lived overseas for most of my adult life with my family. For me, the engagement with Galaxy Tours has been the fact that over the past 8 years, I've worked intermittently in Tunisia, and it's allowed me to understand and really grab a hold of the wonderful Star Wars history that's connected to Tunisia and look at a way in order to be able to solve the problem for fans in terms of how to deliver a research-free, stress-free, all-inclusive holiday to Star Wars fans that can bring them to Tunisia and allow them to have all sorts of Star Wars immersion, coupled with the Tunisian history and culture that is inherent at all of the Star Wars sites, to give this complete, all-immersive, all-inclusive package and allow fans to simply say, yes, let's do this. This has been the adventure and a dream of a lifetime. Let's make this happen. That is really, in a nutshell, Galaxy Tours itself. It really began as an effort during COVID as a research project. I've already been living and working in Tunisia, but I said, you know what? There are so many different travel logs and different pieces of information scattered over 2.5 decades of pioneers who have gone in the mid 90s and late 90s, and then other travelers who followed to Tunisia and made their own travel logs. But there was so much different type of information, most of it correct, some of it blatantly wrong. And so I really sit there and said, why don't we create galaxytours.com to become the authoritative one-stop source for all things Lucasfilm, specifically Star Wars franchise filming in Tunisia. And so that's why when you open up galaxytours.com, especially if you look at the film site areas that we have or the scouted site areas that we have, it's very well researched. You have exact dates that were filmed at every single film site, the exact scenes on those dates that were filmed. And so it's really heavily there. And so we have that one-stop shop for that. Now, as we grew that during COVID, and we said, wow, we've got something really fun. We put in a lot of work here, a lot of meticulous hours looking at archive data, but also on the ground field work in Tunisia. We said, we now have the ability, we have everything in place, we've done all this research, and we have all the contacts on the ground. We've solved the problem for Star Wars fans to be able to come here. Why don't we bring Star Wars fans here as a business with Galaxy Tours and create this very niche exclusive travel company to bring Star Wars fans to have this experience in Tunisia. So that's really where we're at currently as a company. We are incorporated in the United States, but we are registered to be able to do our tours in Tunisia. So everything is on board, and that's the way we roll. Everything's got to be legal and correct, right? So we do that space, and we really just bring that enthusiasm, excitement for Star Wars fans to be able to have this experience in Tunisia, which is by far the gem of all Star Wars filming locations. I'm a little biased just because that's my area of expertise, but anyone who goes there and has this experience, they will say, yes, this is the ideal real world location to have the ultimate Star Wars immersive experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a couple of things that I'd like to pull out there. So you mentioned the amount of misinformation first. When I first started researching Tunisia about 7 years ago, I had to give up. I was just getting such conflicting information. So how have you managed to get that research done? It must be nigh on impossible task.
No, thank you so much. It's great, fantastic question. So I'm a big believer in team play. There are so many individuals who have bits and pieces of information. And so I spent the early years of Galaxy Tour, especially that first year, of reaching out and connecting to all the original pioneers like Philip Bunny, David West Reynolds, Jeremy Beckett, Gus Lopez, and there's others across the board. And what I wanted to do is talk to them and say, hey, what access of information did you have? And let's form some consolidation. Through that, I was then able to gain access to shooting records, production records, call sheets, all those types of things across the films in order to be able to aggregate the data and fill in the holes. It really was a large puzzle project. And then obviously, I've spent so much time on the ground at the film sites of being able to fill in the missing gaps where we didn't have information from, and talking to locals and understanding their experiences. Now, for A New Hope, that's a little difficult because there's not that many locals left that really remember that. But for the prequels, there still is a good bit there. So it was really this connecting, this teaming, this research effort of bringing all this together and then just organizing it and framing it in a way that made sense and that followed through for Star Wars fans to be able to process. I have an academic background. I have a Hebrew Bible and Greek New Testament studies master's degree, and so all these things kind of clicked. There was this archaeological bit, this puzzle making bit, this research bit, this building connections bit, and it really just flowed into allowing all this information to flow and be able to provide that type of product for Star Wars fans. So that's how we got there. But it really, as you're not alone, this was a 3-4 year research project. So many individuals would just stop and quit because it is so disparate and there's so many different streams of information. They just say, oh, looks like I can't do Tunisia. It's just too complicated. So that's what we again, that's the problem that we solve for fans with galaxytours.com.
Now, Galaxy Tours, I think, are the only company that I've done any research on that actually get the ethical side of what a lot of Star Wars collectors want. We don't want these kind of going there, spend the money, all the money gets taken out of the local community and it disappears. You do seem to be really integrated and care about Tunisia. And I think that's one of your USPs from any of the companies that I've seen.
No, I appreciate that. And thanks for highlighting that, Rich. We really do. That is a core part of our model. We look at the Star Wars film sites as national treasures for Tunisia of worldwide historical heritage value. And so although Tunisians innately are not Star Wars fans, it's not necessarily a part of their culture. Probably 5%. It's growing among the younger generation, but the majority, you can ask, well, 9 out of 10 Tunisians, do you like Star Wars? Do you know what it is? And usually the answer is, I think it was filmed here, or they know it's filmed there, but it's like, well, okay, it's Star Wars. And we try to educate them and say, do you understand how large the global Star Wars phenomenon is? And they'll say mostly, sure, yeah, but it's just kind of acknowledging that there's something there. And so what we want to do is bring all of that Star Wars goodness back into Tunisia. So some of the key things that we do in order to make sure that Tunisia, and especially the local communities associated with the film sites, benefit from the Galaxy Tours operations, is we train, hire local guides that I personally will train and give them that Galaxy Tours type of expertise and professionalism. Part of that training actually entails watching and having conversations and even quizzes about Star Wars films, just to make sure that they are conversant to be able to talk about Luke and Anakin and all the characters that we know and love. And then in terms of partnering beyond the Tunisian guides themselves, we partner with local, both private and public sector entities in order to make sure that we are, when we bring our customers our guests on tour, they're able to we fill up hotels, we fill up restaurants. We're able to, our transportation vendors have that type of business. And so the money is going back to the local communities. And then what we also do in our partnering aspects is we proceeds from our tours go towards the restoration and preservation of the film sites in order to keep them, to sustain them and to keep them as these historical landmarks as they are. Many of them are actually buildings, actual landmarks themselves. Many are in the middle of the wilderness, deserts, salt flats, but all of them require upkeep. And so we actively engage with different partners, both private and public, in order to be part of that scenario. We're not alone in doing that. Again, this is a team effort, but we like to contribute in that way and to be a leading voice in the community to say, let's make sure that we keep these things, these landmarks properly maintained so that all Star Wars fans can enjoy them. And really also that Tunisian individuals who just like Tunisian history can enjoy them as well, because you do get both aspects of that as you enjoy all these different film site areas.
So we've got a couple of listeners then who are perhaps interested in Galaxy Tours and seeing what different options you have. So about 7 years ago, I spoke to a couple of individuals about Tunisia, and one said, oh, you need 3 weeks. Another person said you need 9 days. Another person said you could do most things in 1 day. And I just was completely baffled. So what different tours do you have? What would be your recommendations? And how could somebody go and have a look at the packages that you've got?
Absolutely. So first of all of our packages are available on galaxytours.com. Right when you open the website, the very first link button underneath that says book your adventure. Just click on that and it'll take you to all of our Twin Suns expedition packages. Those are multi-day packages. And so we offer 3 different Twin Suns expedition packages: a 4-day package, a 6-day package, and an 8-day package. What we do is the Star Wars film sites, we cover the film sites plus scouted locations. So we actually give individuals 22 different Star Wars locations to look at. The scouted locations are something that my team that I've led in order to identify different locations that Lucas either visited in 1975 or that McCallum and his crew visited in 1995 prior to the prequels. These sites were visited by the Star Wars heads, but they weren't used ultimately as Star Wars locations or Star Wars filming sites. And so we actually incorporate, though, the history of the scouting locations with our tour itself. And that's where you have 12 film sites and 10 scouted locations. So what we do then is the 4-day tour is the fastest, most quickly paced one. It starts in Jerba, it ends in Tozer. We don't do a pickup in Tunis or drop off in Tunis. It's a different type of model, different type of concept. Those are private tours run by the locally trained Tunisian guides. The 6-day tour is the same concept, a private tour run by locally trained Tunisian guides. It adds a few extra benefits and few extra sites as well. So it will include all of the film sites and all the scouted locations and a few other additional landmarks that look and feel very much like Star Wars, especially on the island of Jerba, but were not filmed. They weren't used in any way for Star Wars itself. But we like to bring fans there to these different areas so they can see, wow, if you just walk around, especially the island of Jerba, it feels like you are walking in the Star Wars universe, because so much of that architecture is what inspired Lucas to create the Tatooine architecture, which is then cascaded throughout the Star Wars universe. Our 8-day package is the one that we're currently really promoting. Those are the ones that I currently lead. I go twice a year, every October and every April. Those begin and end in Tunis. So we pick you up at the airport in Tunis. We have 8 days. We bring you down to southern part of Tunisia, and then we go through the whole entire process and get you back up to Tunis at the end of 8 days. All of these are all inclusive. And what we do then is the reason why we don't do a lightning speed of here's the next site, let's go. Here's the next site, let's go. We actually spend a good bit of time at every site to be able to allow fans to experience every single scene angle, every single frame shot, because those are the things that we've researched with all the meticulous research we've done to allow fans to be able to immersively experience every bit of cinematic nostalgia at these sites themselves. And then we have special events as well. And so we'll do a Tuscan tent dinner experience under the Saharan stars. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
We have an experience. Obviously, you have multiple sunset experiences. One at Tashi Station on the island of Jerba, which is fantastic. And then we can never not have the binary sunset experience, which is really the last day of our tour. We also have ATV pod racing experiences. So you hop on quads or ATVs and you actually visit the different Mos Espa and prequel sites in the desert north of Nefta on ATVs. It makes it a fun experience to get to, and then you can pretend like you're pod racing as well, which is really, really fantastic. We have an experience in Star Wars Canyon called Mager Gorge, in which we actually call it a scavenger hunt, because there are so many film angles and scenes shot inside the interior. We give reference material to our fans, our guests that are with us, and we say, hey, take an hour and just explore without a guide and see how many of these you can find. And it's really fun because it makes it a game, and it's really that interactive type of experience. Obviously, we're there to be watching and making sure everything's fine, and at the end of the hour, we explain any places that were missed. But that's kind of the experience that we do. So it's truly immersive. It's not just drop off. And then what we do, the 8-day package as well, is we add a very exclusive Indiana Jones tourism day on top of that. In the center of Tunisia, there is a city called Kairouan. It is the fourth holiest city in Islam and one of the most historic cities in Tunisia. It doubled as Raiders of the Lost Ark Cairo. Mm-hmm. And so we bring at the end of the 8-day tour, the very last day, is an Indiana Jones focus day where we explore the entire old city of Cairo. We see all 17 filming locations inside the old city, including the Cairo swordsman standoff, including all the different alleys that were chased down where Indy is trying to find Marion. And then we end that day with a sunset experience on Salah's terrace. It is the actual rooftop that was used for Salah's home. We have made a special arrangement with the owners of that property, and they allow exclusively our guests to come on top and for a sunset experience. And they actually provide a very light meal and refreshments for our guests and get to know the guest all at the same time. So those are just the kind of, I wanted to really emphasize all those different points to answer the question of, well, can I do all this in one day? Can I do this all in 2 days? You could theoretically do it, and in our shortest tour, the bare minimum you need is that 4 days. Absolutely. Shorter than that, you're not going to get to all the sites. But we like to extend to that 8-day tour to give all those extra goodness things there, all those extra bonus activities and events, and to make sure you have the unforgettable holiday adventure of a lifetime.
Well, you need the time to absorb everything, don't you? Because the amount of times that we've been, even a celebration, at the end of the first day in celebration, you're dying, you're on your knees, and you're rushing from panel to panel, or you're rushing from, cosplay to some of that kind of thing. So having that time to sit down with a drink and a light snack and to chat with, lifelong friends you're going to make on these tours.
Very, very true. You're exactly right. And that is a difference. So the 8-day tour is a group tour, the ones that I lead. And so you do make lifelong friends, individuals, just like in celebration that you never knew before. And you have these real experiences. Now, something else that we do is this. I'm not a camper. I was never a Boy Scout. And so when I travel, I like to travel and stay at the best locations. I don't like the camping aspect. And so something else that we do is we partnered with the best hotels and restaurants, either resorts, 5-star resorts, or boutique hotels, to make sure that at the end of the day or in the morning when you wake up, you're having these Star Wars immersive experiences, but you're doing so in complete comfort and luxury. That's the goal behind it as well. And that's how we merge the two worlds in that space to really give that complete type of holiday package.
Okay, Davin, before we go too much further into this interview, perhaps can you allay some of the fears of our listeners in that, is Tunisia now safe?
Absolutely. Thanks for the question, Rich. It's a great one for sure. So yes, I can, without a doubt, tourism travel in Tunisia is unquestionably safe. This is something of where would not be doing this or running this company or pursuing this effort and bringing fans to Tunisia if I did not feel confident in that statement itself. Petty crime, pickpocketing, even violence towards foreigners is very, very rare in Tunisia. So there's no safety issues in that realm whatsoever. In terms of the terrorism issues that a lot of non-Tunisians will look at and say, hey, I heard this in the news, or I read this in the news, an article here. What's really important to understand is that the terrorism problems that really occurred in 2015 and 2016, really the climax of the terrorism issues that were there in Tunisia, that was a terrorism problem, not a Tunisian problem per se. Let me define what I mean by that. So the majority of Tunisians will view terrorism, especially Islamist terrorism, as something that is directly contradictory to the standard of Tunisian values and morals and ethics. And so when in 2015, when you had the two major mass casualty attacks that were ISIS or Al-Qaeda inspired in Tunis and then near a beach near Sousse, that really shocked a lot of Tunisians of saying, what is this? This is not a Tunisian way of doing things. Tunisians are innately very kind, very forthcoming, and very generous towards non-Tunisians and especially tourists. That's again a very important part of their society and their makeup and who they are. And so that came as a real big shock in that case. And so the way I define then what we're looking at here, and to be clear, I'm not a security expert in any way. I've just spent a lot of time in Tunisia and studied a lot of these types of things. So I'm not an authoritative voice on these types of things. However, I have connected with a lot of individuals who do have specifications and expertise in this area. And what we're really looking at is this type of situation. As ISIS and Al-Qaeda reached their peak in the 2015, 2016 era, at that same time, you had the downtrend in terrorism and a obvious and very aggressive uptick by the Tunisian authorities to render aggressive security actions and measures in order to contain the borders on the Libyan and Algerian side, in order to make sure that checkpoints were secure, checkpoints were installed throughout the major cities and the major roadways between different governance, different regions. So a lot of effort, intense effort was given in that era, and it still is present in order to make sure to secure Tunisia as a safe place for anyone to travel to. And so that's a real important point to stress. As I've stated, I've worked intermittently the past 8 years in Tunisia. There hasn't been once as I've traveled around where I felt unsafe in any way, that I felt as if there were any issues that could be problematic for me. Females can travel around the country very safely. There's no need for females, especially females, that are not Arab or that are not Muslim. There's no need for them to have to wear any type of special clothing. The Western modern dress is totally acceptable. And so it's as you're traveling through Tunisia and you're feeling this, you'll just get the sense that it really does feel very open to all sorts of standard and modern non-Tunisian way of doing things for the non-Tunisians to be in the country itself.
So ultimately what we're saying is Tunisia is open for business, it's welcoming for everybody, but I think ultimately the proof is in the pudding of Galaxy Tours, their whole ethical nature. You would not be promoting anything like this. You would not be visiting Tunisia if there was any doubt in your mind whatsoever that it wasn't safe for families. And, you've mentioned the 8-day tours, luxury and, high quality apartments, fine dining. I mean, that is the Tunisia experience that you're going to get at this moment in time.
Absolutely, Rich. Exactly right. Well summed up. You should come on board. We should probably hire you as our spokesperson. That was fantastically said. Exactly right.
So, as I said, I've looked at flights to Tunisia a number of times, and for
Mhm.
most of Europe, my mother lives in Gozo, which is a tiny little island of Malta, which isn't too far away. And all of the flights I've seen to found go to Tunis. It's
Mhm.
very difficult to get to Jerba, but on your website, or perhaps on some Facebook post you made, I believe there are possibly 1 hour flights from Tunis to Jerba. Is that correct? And if so, what's your advice on that?
Exactly. So Tunis Air Express does run, is the domestic airline inside Tunisia. And they do run flights between Tunis to Jerba daily, usually 3 times a day, or to Tozer about 3 or 4 times a week between Tozer and Tunis. Tunis to Jerba is because they do 3 times a day. That's the one that's why we always start our tours, the 4 day and 6 day tours, the private tours. We start those in Jerba because it's much easier to get there. That flight is 50 minutes. It can be booked through travel agents or through any type of, it can be booked directly also at Tunis Air Express. So it's very easy to be able to do that. And for the 4 and 6 day tour, although we don't cover the cost of that domestic flight, we're definitely obviously there to help in order to make those arrangements and to help assist in that space. The 8 day tour, the beauty of it is it all starts and ends in Tunis. So any other type of arrangements completely are taken care of. We'll pick you up at the airport and then drop you off at the airport. And it's done. That's the nice thing about it.
Yeah. So which film locations are a must? What are the most popular, and what are people asking when they're on these tours?
So the most popular locations are the Hotel City Idris in Matmata, which is doubled as the Lars Homestead Interior.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a hotel since 1968, so prior to the initial filming. And it is a structure that has 5 subterranean pits interconnected, and they formed a hotel that was founded in 1968, as I mentioned. And so that the fact to be able to see the pit number 2, which is the film site pit, to see it still dressed up, mostly from original Attack of the Clones era props that were there for set dressings, to see it there is one of the most immersive experiences you can possibly have. We up that by overnighting at the hotel, which then allows you to wake up right in the morning to be able to see sunrise over Luke's home, to sleep in Luke's home, and then to be able to sip blue milk in the morning for breakfast in the Lars Homestead dining room itself. That is one of the most, it's the only non-luxury location we stay at. It is a bit rustic. You do have your own room and you do have a mattress, which is great. So that's fantastic. There is a community area for a shower and for bathrooms and restrooms and things of that nature. But that is our only rustic location. However, we obviously do that as part of our premium travel packages in order to allow fans to have that experience. So fans love the Lars Homestead Interior. They also love the, and no surprise, on the Chôte de Giride Salt Flats, which is about 265 kilometers away from Hotel City Idris, you have the Lars Homestead Exterior. Those are really the 2 biggest draws that everyone wants to see. And we always line up our time at the Lars Homestead Exterior with the sunset experience. There's only one sun, but we can do in post later. You can add your second sun there. A lot of individuals love Jerba Island because you have within 15 kilometers of each other on the western part of the island, you have Mos Eisley, so the cantina, with the stormtrooper checkpoint scene. You then have 3 kilometers away, you have Obi-Wan Kenobi's original house. That was part of the film until the 1997 special edition, removed it with some CGI modeling effects. And then just 12 kilometers or 10 kilometers up the road, you have everyone's famous or favorite Tashi Station from the deleted scenes, which is really fun to do in that space. And then finally, for me, one of my favorite locations, you've got the Mos Espa set, which was built for the prequels in 1997, 1996, is still there. That is in the deserts north of Nefta. It's about 35 minutes or so maybe 40 from the Lars Homestead exterior set on the Salt Flats. And so they're all relatively close by. But for me, one of my favorite locations is the Mager Gorge, or it's also known as Sidi Boulel Gorge or Star Wars Canyon. I've mentioned that already in this interview. I love it because every turn you can be immersively part of the experience, and you get to see we hike up all the way to the summit, and we look over the wretched hive of scum and villainy below, which is fantastic. That's really an experience for sure for all fans. The hike isn't difficult. It's definitely doable. And then I would say for me then, in Indiana Jones part of it, I really enjoy the Well of the Souls and the map room area, yes. Which is at the Tanis Dig site, which is actually just right outside of Star Wars Canyon. They're very close by. And then the Kairouan experience, as I described already, the Indies Cairo, is that full entire day is for me is one of the best parts of the tour, because you are in a city, in an old souk, wandering around, and every corner, every turn you make is a new part of Raiders that you've seen and lived with your entire life. It has that same type of every corner a new discovery feel that you get at Star Wars Canyon as well. So that's kind of an overview of those. And again, the two biggest draws that fans are most familiar with are going to be the Hotel City Idris Lars Homestead interior, and then the Salt Flats location for the Lars Homestead exterior. But as they start looking and understanding what else is there, and that's what we love doing at Celebration in London, as we talk about what else is visitable, you could see eyes just light up and people saying, I want this. I didn't know all these locations were there. And that's the cool thing about Tunisia. And that's why really it is that gem of Star Wars destinations.
Well, there's still a lot of the prequels was all CGI, and that's not, true. And the prequels have got a new appreciation now.
True.
We've had them for they must be pushing 25 years, 30 years now.
Yeah, exactly right.
So you've got a whole new generation who will be interested in that kind of aspect. So do you see the prequel kind of locations becoming more popular than perhaps you initially thought?
But without a doubt. Now, the Mos Espa set, that one's always super famous because it is so rare to have an actual real Star Wars set preserved in the middle of the desert. So that one's always been famous. But as you're right, as the prequels now are gaining a well-deserved better appreciation for what they are among fans, the prequels fans are now, getting that point of where they want to be doing traveling and are at that point in their lives where they want to have that type of experiences. We are getting a lot more attention from prequels era fans of saying, hey, let me focus specifically on what the prequels will offer. And they are blown away. They love every aspect of it. And especially, they love the fact that we've hunted down, identified the certain parts of the Bunta Eve Classic. So there is the starting grid valley Dune Valley, in which the pod racers were brought. There was actually 9 life-size pod racers that were brought, and about 4 different cutout pod racers that were there. So we've identified those locations. There is a spot in the Mos Espa set itself that was used for the pit area where you had R2-D2 and friends cheering on Anakin. We know where the viewing platform area was. We also know where the grandstand area was. And then we also, just very close by, we're able to take fans to be able to see the very unique open field structure. It has these wind-blown sand structures called yardans. The Yardang field is where you had the Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul lightsaber duel. You had the Naboo spacecraft ramp that was there. You did have a smaller set that was there previously, but started being buried, completely buried now. They started being buried about 2004. And then a little bit further from there, we're able to take you to the location where Darth Maul landed on Tatooine and sent out his Sith probe droids. So you do have that very prequel heavy thing. And then the one that really gets prequel fans excited is taking you to Anakin's home, the exterior of his hovel. You can actually knock on the door itself and to be able to see where Anakin lived in that fictional context. That's a beautiful location called Qasar o Marcia, which is away from the desert. It's actually closer to Jura Island. But those are great prequel era film sites themselves that really do get the prequels fans excited.
Excellent. And now on your website, I've checked most pages, but I've read something I've never seen before about somebody called TK1. So who is TK1 and how did you connect the galaxy to us?
TK1 is an absolute legend. I'm going to show for the viewers that are here, I'm going to show a photo. The viewers are watching a video, not just listening. So this photo is an iconic photo of the first 6 stormtroopers ever filmed in Tunisia, or just franchise-wide, on the 25th of March, 1976. This photo is fantastic because all 6 Tunisian extras who were put in the stormtrooper costumes are locals, and they have their helmets off so you can actually identify their faces. So as part of our all-encompassing research to create the Galaxy Tours operations on our website, and also as part of our effort to give back to Tunisians who contributed to Star Wars production, we initiated the campaign to start identifying the original 6 stormtroopers. And last year, actually now 2023, so the summer of 2021, we initiated the campaign on May 4th, 2021. By August of 2021, we were able to vet and identify and interview the very first of these 6 original stormtroopers. So he was the first one we identified in this group. His name is Taher Kawa. He is from Nefta. Since he is the first one that we've identified from the original 6, we gave him the honorary name of TK1. It's a great name for him to have, and it's great. He totally owns the name. Now you can watch the interview we did with him in August of 2021 on our YouTube channel, and what you'll see there is he absolutely hated everything about the experience. It's really funny to see him talk about it. Putting on the costume was horrendous. It was very Anakin-esque in that the sand was everywhere and it was rough, right? It wasn't a fun thing for him. It was hot. They didn't like that. We even asked him, would you do it again? He says, absolutely not. He would not do it again. But what we did is we formed a good relationship with him, and Galaxy Tours is now actually contractually his agent. And so we then sell his autographs online on our website, and we give a percentage of the profits back to him. It is the only way that he would ever gain economic benefit from his very historic role as the first identified film stormtrooper. And we want to give back to him. And every time we're able to see him, or I'm able to give him his percentage of the profits. And it's just a great experience that we have. And he's very grateful. He's very humble. He's just a class act individual. And I find it to be, to know him is really a privilege, and allowing the rest of the Star Wars community to get to know him is something that really is high on our list to do. That is why in our 8-day tour exclusively, we actually have a session with TK1. We call it Tea with TK1. You actually sit down, enjoy tea or coffee with him in his hometown of Nefta. You chat for a half hour, 45 minutes. We have a translator there to help with the conversations. He speaks only Arabic. And it's a great experience to really firsthand get to know who TK1 is. Obviously, he will sign things as well for our guests that are there. And so that's part of the way that we're giving back to him, but also allowing Star Wars fans to delve into a really historic and unique thing for what is the most iconic, in terms of stormtroopers and clone troopers, the most iconic Star Wars costumes that you can have, that really are you had the 501st Legion and all the garrisons, all that goodness. I like to say that it began with TK1 in the original 6. So that's a great moment for Star Wars fans.
You're missing a bit here that I think we've really got to know. When you first went to him and said, I could sell your autograph, his reaction must have been, what on earth are you talking about?
He thought I was a crazy American, right? He was saying, this is absolutely crazy. He goes, why would anyone want my autograph? And I simply said, Taher, trust me, people will want your autograph. People want to get to know who you are, because you may not understand how large and global this Star Wars connection is, but it is there. And the more we spread the word, the more people get excited about meeting TK1. And again, I always offer everyone, if you want a chance to meet him in person, join our 8-day tours. And that's the connection you have with him.
Brilliant. Now, I've done the Visit Hoth experience in Finns, being on the battle planes, amazing experience, but that was quite different in that it was an organised over a certain weekend where you had cosplayers and you had cast and crew and you had storyboards and pre-production items, things like that. Are there any plans to do something similar? Certainly, I'm thinking, you've got lots of opportunities for stormtroopers and Tusken Raiders and cosplayers in Tunisia. Do you have any plans or anything to look at that kind of thing?
No, really great question. We openly invite all cosplayers to join our tours. They enliven the tours, especially on the 8-day tour where it's a group. We are actually very actively marketing and engaging with Star Wars fan groups of all types. We offer special discounts for our 8-day tour in order to give cosplay fan groups the ability to come in mass and enjoy as a group, which is the only way cosplay should be done in a true sense. So they can really play off each other, and we carve out time at all the film sites to make sure that they can have those photo moments and engage in that space. And so the beautiful thing about Tunisia is we don't have to bring any other props. The sites themselves already are innately the props. They are the locations. And so it is perfect cosplay background for all of those Star Wars fan groups that want to be able to have that experience. And so what I do is I invite any leads for the Star Wars fan groups. If you want to create a very special anniversary type event for your fan group, contact us. You can contact us through galaxytours.com. There's a contact us section. Go ahead and reach out to us or reach out to me personally on via Facebook or the different social media platforms. And we'll make sure that we give a special fan club discount for those large group type of scenarios, because we want to really make this as doable as possible. And that's something that a lot of fans, especially in London, that were talking to us is, as we talked about our pricing, the 8-day tour, the one that we're currently really focusing on, that is $4,000 US dollars per person. And when we talk about all the things, the all-inclusive premium travel that you get with that for an entire 8 days inside Tunisia, so many fans said, you know what, that's a fantastic deal, in terms of what individuals will pay for the Disney type experiences. And that's a different type of construct. And by no means am I comparing the two. But what you're paying here, though, is to have an immersive Star Wars experience in a real world location. That's the beautiful thing about what Galaxy Tours provides in Tunisia. And so for fan groups to be able to have that experience in a real world setting that feels and looks like Star Wars everywhere you go, that you can visit the actual location of Tatooine, which inspired Lucas to create fictional Tatooine, that when you are driving around, you will see men and women, especially in the southern part of Tunisia, when it's cold at night, they will put on a barnous robe, which looks very strikingly like a Jedi robe itself. Yeah. I'm not saying that the barnous robe necessarily was the inspiration; those were created differently, but they're part of that whole holistic aspect of it. And so you'll see Jedis on mopeds cruising around at night, which is fantastic, right? And then you look over and you see a building that has the classic Tatooine style dome and chamber vaulted structure with the buttresses that fly out in the ground. You say, this feels like everywhere I go, I'm on fictional Tatooine. And that's the best part of this experience for private groups or cosplay groups of all types, to be able to come and enjoy what Tunisia has to offer in this space.
What do the locals think of the Star Wars fans descending into their territory? And I'm guessing they're a little bit surprised, but what are the reception from the locals?
So Tunisians innately are genuinely hospitable. Tunisians are tourism is extremely important for Tunisia economically, and Tunisians themselves really are in a part of the Arab world in the Maghrebi North Africa that is very welcoming to foreigners, to non-Tunisians. And it is a fantastic experience to see local Tunisians engage with the Star Wars fans who visit the sites. Some of the sites are out in the middle of nowhere, very remote, so you don't really have a local engagement per se with the fans that we bring to the sites. But other locations, probably a really good one to as use an example, is in Ajim, which was created as the Cantina Mos Eisley space with the security checkpoint. It's located on the southwestern part of the island of Jerba. Right in the middle, the Mos Eisley was created in a main neighborhood just south of the town hall area in Najim. So it's a busy, bustling neighborhood. And there is now a cafe that sits right where everyone's favorite land speeder behind the scenes scene with the pink shorts boom guy was actually located, right? And so right there's a cafe, and that cafe is filled with locals nonstop. And so locals are very used to seeing all sorts of Star Wars fans come and hunt for different behind the scenes reference areas to find the security checkpoint, to see the plaza that the land speeder drove across to get to the cantina, and obviously look at the cantina, which is an abandoned bakery. It's falling apart more and more every year, but it's still very stable, still there. And the cafe now is right next to the cantina abandoned bakery location. And so you'll have the locals will simply look at the Star Wars fans there. They'll take pictures in front of this building. The locals have stopped questioning why they're doing it. They just say, it's a thing. I guess it's a thing, right? And so they welcome it. They're very kind. They're not, and they want the fans to enjoy the experience. And so they are not in your face. Hey, hey, come over here. I have a shop. Why don't you come buy something? They're just hands off. They just enjoy seeing Star Wars fans enjoy Ajim and say, I never knew that you'd have a bunch of Westerners and pretty much everyone throughout the world come and enjoy Ajim, but hey, you do. And that's a unique experience for them for sure. And so at the restaurants, at the hotels, the Tunisians are so grateful and so genuinely, sincerely hospitable to all the fans that we bring to these locations that, one of the things that we like to have at the end of the tour is we talk about, hey, like our last dinner together, we say, hey, just let's talk about experiences. What did you enjoy? And obviously there's going to be the Star Wars aspects, and people will talk about their favorite parts and what they really enjoyed reenacting. And they love seeing exactly where Obi-Wan Kenobi was first said hello there, and they have responses back and forth. Those are all good things. But what they often will also say is, I love Tunisia. What a great experience this was. I gained so much more appreciation for Tunisian culture and history and the cuisine and who they are as people. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy most, is allowing fans to organically come to that point where they had the Star Wars holiday of adventure coupled with this ultimate Tunisian experience. And that is the thing that I find to be one of the most satisfying parts of my job, is seeing people come to that experience and come to that realization and experience a new culture that they always thought was maybe too far away or too exotic to explore, or, as we talked about before, maybe too unsafe to visit. And they get here, all of their concerns are alleviated, and they walk away with that appreciation for what Tunisia actually is. It's a great thing to see.
Well, you've led this lovely into my last question here. So if someone's in my kind of predicament, where my wife, when I first touted Tunisia 2024, she literally said, I'd rather gouge my eyeballs out with spoons than visit Star Wars movie sets. So if we went to come on with 8-day tour, what else is there in Tunisia for somebody who's perhaps not such a big fan that can do in Tunisia?
Oh, absolutely. So we got this question a lot in London. You'd have a couple or family, and I would say, hey, who are the Star Wars fans? You'd get half raise their hand. I say, okay, who are tolerant of their Star Wars family members? And you get the other half that raise their hand. And so what the beautiful thing about Galaxy tours and what we do at the film sites and the scouted sites, as we've talked about, is that they are inherently historic Tunisian landmarks, or in beautiful remote landscapes that are uniquely Tunisian. And so when we take fans there and we have the conversation, we always start out by introducing the Tunisian history of the site. So you get that cultural heritage appreciation from the sites. And then we explore the Star Wars immersive filming history of the sites as well. And so the Star Wars fans get the Star Wars immersion. The non-Star Wars fans get the Tunisian appreciation. And they both walk away saying, I'm glad we did this, which is a very different thing than maybe if you're going to Finns. That's kind of a Star Wars thing, right? Yeah. Or, there's beautiful snow, right? It's fantastic, right? And there's great hotels to be there, but it's a very different type of experience. Or if you're in the UK and you're visiting all the different sites that have been used for filming locations, they're great, but there's sometimes not a lot of substance to them. Just here is a building that was part of it. Some of them are very historic without a doubt, but all of them in Tunisia give that experience, and that's what makes it so great. And then we couple that with the very premium style of travel that we commit to, and so that you have wonderful lodging accommodations. Yeah. You have fantastic restaurants that you're eating at. And so you get the entire Tunisian experience as well. And it's, as I was talking in the last question, what's interesting is fans that went there for Star Wars only often talk about the appreciation for Tunisia more than the fans who went there for the Tunisia side of the house. That's not to say that the non-Star Wars fans didn't love the experience, but it just shows that the Star Wars fans are blown away just as much by the Tunisian goodness as they are with the Star Wars goodness.
Mm-hmm. Well, certainly you've touched on the things that my wife likes, comfort and fine food.
Absolutely. We are one of the same. That's exactly what I enjoy for sure.
So, Davin, I kept you on for quite a while now, so we're going to have to wrap this up. But finally, We've got some listeners who are wanting to reach out, perhaps ask questions. We haven't covered some areas. What's the best way in getting in contact with Galaxy Tours and finding out about all of the events and wonderful things that you have and reading about TK1?
Absolutely. So all of that is, the primary location, everything is available on galaxytours.com. The website is very innately set up, user-friendly, so you can navigate to either the tours, which is where you'll learn more about our different Twin Suns expeditions, or navigate over to the store area if you want to be able to purchase a TK1 autograph, or the different type of store items that we have. We also have puzzles that we sell of the film sites, or canvas prints that we sell as well, that are Galaxy Tours property, that are images that we use to be able to sell in our store. And so visiting galaxytours.com is the hub itself. There's a contact us link if you want to engage with us directly in questions. But everything is that we've done what we can to make sure that all of your questions can be answered. Like, for example, on our tours page, there is an extensive frequently asked questions section at the bottom of the tours page, the Twin Suns expedition page. And so those questions are all there. They're answered for you. It is set up and streamlined so that when you see that, and as you get motivated and passionate about what you see in the website, that you can book our tours directly or purchase TK1 autographs directly. It's all streamlined there. That said, as you can tell, I like people. I think people are great innately. I like to talk to people. So we're here to be able to answer any questions that anyone would have. We have that contact us section on our website, or you can reach out to us. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, we're there as well, Twitter, LinkedIn. So we're on different platforms. I believe we're moving into TikTok. I'm still talking to our developers about that, so we'll get in that space. We're starting to do different video reels of different, videos at the film sites themselves. So we'll be adding those to TikTok. So all sorts of venues to like us on those platforms, to reach out to us on those platforms. All there. We are here to engage with Star Wars fans and to communicate how great this is. And so we want as many people to reach out to us. There's not a single question that is dumb. All questions are great. And we're here to be able to make sure that we can answer all those questions to bring this experience to Star Wars fans as much as possible.
Well, I think that's answered all of our listeners' questions, Toby, Davin, but thank you very much for your time with the Vintage Rebellion and the Fantha Tracks. I love your display. I love talking to the guys. I came back about 3 times to visit your stall in London because, there was so much, and it was very busy.
It was great. No, it's good. Yes, good. Thank you for doing that, without a doubt, Rich. This has been an amazing experience. Your team at Vintage Rebellion, fantastic class act individuals, without a doubt. Looking forward to working with you in this capacity moving forward, and looking forward to getting you out on the tour in 2024. To be great.
Absolutely.